So let's say once I get my candidate membership with APPI, can I take my ethical exams first, like anytime, or have to wait for a year?
You can do the ethical exam as part through that year period.
Okay.
Yeah.
At any time.
Yeah. But you can't take the professional exam until you've done all the mentorship, the sponsorship, and the ethical exam. Then you write the professional one. Okay? What was your online
And that
question?
question is, one of the online questions is, Gary had said they ultimately we would like to have the professional exam on demand, but right now there's only 2 sittings of it a year, and it's usually in March and September. And they're all scheduled across Canada for the same date and time right now.
Yep. Is that the question?
No,
Is that,
the other question was, can your hours be logged retroactively? So when you're going through CLAR, if you decide not to be a subscriber, you're going to be working 5 years. So, you know, in 5 years, to gain 5 years of experience as a junior, you might need to work 10 years. So you can retroactively gain your experience. What you cannot retroactively gain is that 1 year that you have to mentor. So no matter what, if you have an accredited degree, you have to do 1 more year as a candidate member and be mentored. So I'm just trying to think of what example. So most candidate members, when they have an accredited degree, they come right to us. So they really would be logging 2 years. But if you had some experience, you can retroactively log it, and as long as somebody will sign off on it, you're fine.
yeah.
So just to build on that, I've been meeting with my mentor for 2 years already, and logging that in a book, but I haven't submitted that name to PSB. Is that allowed?
I'd like to ask Taylor that question.
Okay,
My understanding was no.
Are you signed up at all?
Yeah, but it was signed up, and then the person who was my mentor moved to another town and said they couldn't do it anymore.
Okay. But are you in the process?
Are you a candidate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, if you're a candidate member, yeah,
then
you're
you
all
should
right.
be fine.
Oh,
Okay, if you're not a candidate member, the answer is no. None of that time counts. Okay. Okay. What?
On the books.
On the books. Sorry. Okay. Let's be clear here. Probably a great segue, but yes, if you're not a candidate member and you're into a mentorship or a sponsorship relationship, unfortunately, that time period does not count. Yeah, the trigger is you actually sort of sign up and then it starts.
And that's why I said sign up right away.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Is it okay if our mentor is in a different affiliate, like they're in PIBC?
Yes, that's fine. Yeah.
How do you show that 5 years?
You put a portfolio together, and you can go to the PSB website. Okay, and essentially you've documented in some way the work that you have done. And using Lyla's comment, tie it to the competency and then submit it to the PSB. And then we give it to an assessor who essentially evaluates it and gives an answer back.
So is it 5 years worth of hours?
No. Well, here's as it relates to the work. You could look at that 5-year period. If you can take every nanosecond of that 5 years and relate it to the competencies, probably would work. But if for that first year you weren't really working at that the level that we would expect a professional planner to be at, okay, it might take 6 years. Okay, you'll log 6 years, but 5 years is somewhere in there. We'll find that 5 years. Okay, yes, sir.
Yeah, I have probably a bit long question. I have bachelor's degree in civil engineering, but master's in urban planning. That is MSc, Master of Science in Urban Planning.
Right.
And that is not from Canada.
Okay.
From Nepal. And I have got equivalent certificate. I have assessed from IPAS. And I have got equivalence letters for all the degrees that I have, equivalent to that what I have. And I have work experience more than 15 years in land development, city planning, and everything.
Right.
I worked in land development too, city planning, all of the components that are related to planning. I have worked that one.
Okay.
And that is also out of Canada, not in here.
Right.
But everybody here talks about the experience in Canada, work in Canada, or like that. That's why, can I go like that with the IPA certification or with my degree and the experience to apply for that one?
The accreditation program is designed more for Canadian universities. However, we do have some universities in the U.S., for example, that would meet that requirement of an accredited degree.
I'm not from you.
Okay. I'm just walking it through my head here, how to answer your question. Okay. There are some international affiliates that you could come in as a member that way. So if you were a member of the Royal Town Planning Institute in Britain, if you were a member of APA or ACIP, which is the American affiliate, or if you're a member of the Professional Institute of or Planning Institute of Australia, we have reciprocal agreements, thank you, with them. So if you're a member there, you're a member here, okay?
No, sorry, I'm going to clarify.
Oh, is that changed?
You get the advanced standing of an
Is that
accredited
it?
degree, that's all you get.
Ah, okay, my mistake.
It's not the true sense of a reciprocal agreement.
Okay.
But I don't think that's the case.
Yeah. In your case, then, what you have is you have a degree. You're going the PLAR route. If you can put your portfolio together and submit it, even though your work wasn't sort of Canadian work, if it's planning work and you can tie it to the competencies, then the assessor would evaluate on that basis.
But I have an IQAS equivalent certification for my master's degree too.
Yeah, that only gives you the degree qualification.
Yeah.
Then you have to do PLAR, so it gives you the degree, not accredited degree. Then you have to do 5 years of experience through PLAR. It can be retroactive.
Yeah.
As long as you put it together, then you'll be, once you get that assessed properly, you'll be accepted as a candidate member. Then you'll have to do 1 more year of Canadian planning experience with that 1 year mentor.
Yeah.
Then I will have to come to APPI to find a mentor or like that?
If you're working, are you working?
Not because not working there
Yeah.
right now. I'm 3 years and 2 years.
The question is, if I take it, that you need a Canadian mentor. I'd suggest yes, okay, because that's where you're going to be evaluated on is the Canadian planning system. Okay, that's how the exams are organized. That's how the ethics are organized. I appreciate there are other planning educational elements from around the world. And, that's the diversity side that, makes this such an exciting profession. But the measurement will be from the essentially the Canadian experience. So having a mentor to help guide you through that would be really important. Okay. All right.
APPI can help.
Yes. Yeah, MaryJane?
You have to be working as a professional planner in Canada.
Not now.
Yeah.
Looking for a job.
Oh, okay. Well, yes.
Putting together your portfolio for the PLAR route.
Yeah.
Are there resources to, I guess, QA, QC your portfolio to make sure you're on the right track? Thinking you're getting to 5 years.
Yeah.
Submitting is
That's a good question.
It's pretty clear on the website, I think, Lyla. It's based on the competencies, and you have to show examples of those 5 years of where you've acquired those competencies, be it experience, education, or some other means.
You've done your...
Snapped up.
From the practical side, this isn't organized, but I'm just going to wing it here a little bit. If you're putting your 5 years together, you're going to need a mentor. So if you can line that up, the time probably won't count, but it could be someone you could use to review that and say, yeah, you've got our sort of as a pre-review to help you put that together, but it still would need to be assessed independently. Okay, so that might be one way. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I just have a question because I actually joined with, I guess it would be the PLAR group, but when I joined back in 2009 or 10, I can't even remember, the process was quite different at the time, and the requirements were different. I recently received an email about a weekend course. That's something that.
You're not in this route.
So it's totally different.
Yeah, you're still under the old rules. Yeah. So the cutoff is 2012. Okay, so if you had applied for membership anytime, September was it?
Yeah.
Anytime before September of 2012, you were still following the old rules.
Where can I find information on that?
Well, you could
Good. I'll just
yeah.
come talk to you after.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
I'm still want a little more direction around what 5 years means. I mean, this is 5-year full-time job, 5-year part-time.
It's full-time. It's meant to be full-time work.
And we
So-
have the same question from Calgary.
Yeah, if you're-
Based on a 7.25 workday, you know, it's full-time work.
Yeah. If you're working part-time, you might need to work 10 years then to get that 5 years under there. Any other questions online?
I think that's what caught up. The one clarification is, we had said we have a reciprocal agreement with the Royal Town Planning Institute. That, I don't think that applies to anyone in this room, but they have withdrawn that themselves, and all those reciprocal agreements are up to
Yeah.
negotiations right now, but I don't think that's applicable. But there are people that, like Lila's not the only person that have, you know, pursuing a master's degree in the UK is not uncommon for people from Alberta. But it won't advance you if you don't have an accredited degree already.
Yes?
If you're contemplating getting into the program, but you want to know a little bit more about it, like a listing of the core competencies and those types of things, are those all available on the website before you?
Yes. Yeah. There's a guide for a sponsor, and it lists that. There's a guide for the mentor, and it lists that. So when you're doing your mentorship, you can cross-reference each other. And so when I'm talking to my mentee, if that's the word to use, I have that guide with me. And so when we set up our conversations, we talk, okay, what are we going to talk about next? You know, what core competency we're going to measure or capture or what have you. Okay, and the mentee has the same thing, and they might say, well, you know, I'd rather talk about this. Okay, that's fine. Like, you're controlling this to a certain extent. And so that's known. It's not a secret. You know, okay, gee, what's the mentor going to ask me today that I'll have to guess about? Okay, we know we're going to talk about, you know, ethics. We know we're going to talk about policy. We know we're going to talk about something else. So that's what you organize and arrange amongst yourselves. But those competencies are all listed. These are not secrets. Yes, Kim.
So I'm looking at the actual competency list that you have. So when you fill out your PLAR, it's online.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about core competencies, are you looking at the main headings, of which you've got 13, or you're talking about all 45? Because essentially when you flip through these competencies, there's 45 of them.
Yeah.
And so when you look at them, you think of 45 competencies.
Yes, there's part of it is the forget the phrase now. I want to say the technical side of the work itself, and the other is the, I don't know.
Theoretical.
The theoretical, yeah, thank you, in that sense. So those are the measures. So when we're talking about the competencies, okay, it's both. We're trying to measure both your theoretical element, that skill set, and your technical skill set. Okay, and so there's a synthesis that goes on. That, you know, do you have critical thinking capability? Okay, well so there's elements of that. Okay, so when I'm having a conversation with my mentee, okay, and over the time frame that we're talking about, are they exhibiting those abilities? Okay, to analyze a problem, to look at it, to understand what the issue is, to come up with a rational way to get out of the or solve the problem or whatever. Okay, that's a critical skill set. Okay, that's what seems to show that. If they don't, okay, then I need to probe and say, gee, is your job giving you challenge that you need to use that skill set? So that's one example of it. It could be a technical side. You know, do you have communicative ability? Partly the conversation, are they able to communicate ideas? Can they take something that's maybe foreign to them, understand it, articulate it, and repeat it back in a way that still shows the original thought process or idea? And so again, that's a measure, you know, that sense. And so these are all the kinds of things that should be in some way captured and measured, or as either you have it or you don't. And if, as the mentor, if they're not exhibiting that, then my job is to probe and find a way to pull that out of them. Or, oh yeah, I do this all the time. I just never thought of it. Well, okay, it's a measure I'm keeping track of. And you yourself, as the candidate, should be saying, is my mentor helping me cover off all these items? Okay, it seems like a really long list, but in a general conversation, you can, you know, just listening, you can actually, for my side as the mentor, I can actually pull out, okay, yeah, they're exhibiting these things. And it doesn't have to be overt. I don't need anything written or, you know, homework assignment or whatever. They're exhibiting these things. if there's other areas that sort of, you need to go away and look at this, or here's some source material for you to do, or whatever, that's what I do as well.
So just before
Yeah.
you go to the next one,
Okay.
just to clarify on that, so in about 2010, we undertook a project called Planning for the Future, which was when we defined these new core competencies for the planning profession. And, you know, they're not rocket science, they're, you know, some of them are theory-based, some of them are more practical, like communication skills, and so there is a rather long list. And the reason accredited degree candidates get advanced standing is because the entire accreditation degree process is based on defining that those accredited degrees give you a significant number of those competencies via the program. That's the whole accreditation process is based on giving evidence that those students from those graduated accredited programs have those competencies. Your 5-year PLAR situation, you're defining that you get a significant number of those competencies, and now you're at the same spot as an accredited degree candidate after 5 years of practicing the profession. We don't expect anybody to have 100% of those competencies. Perhaps Gary doesn't have 100% of those competencies even once he's been an RPP. So you become a candidate either by the accredited degree or the 5 years, and you have a percentage, let's say 70% of those competencies that you've demonstrated. They're not looking for 100% on that grid, and then as you work towards your candidate to become an RPP, you're still progressing in your professional skill set, and you gain more competencies via, you know, the professionalism and ethics course, the mentoring process, and you're continually growing and building on those. Once you become an RPP, do you have 100% of the competencies? If you have an accredited degree and, you know, 2-3 years of experience, likely not. And we expect you to build on those. An RPP with 3 years of experience versus an RPP with 25 years of experience, of course he's got more of the competencies, but it's an ongoing process. And then once you become a candidate or an RPP, our whole continuous professional learning program is also based on the foundation of those competencies. We want you to continually bring yourself back to, these are the competencies that we've defined for your profession. When you're seeking out learning opportunities, focus on your weaknesses. Work with your mentor. Where can I build up my competency that, you know, we've defined for the planning profession on a national basis?
Lyla?
If it wasn't stressed enough, you need to know your core competencies as you go through the process, because it keeps coming back. You need it for your exams, and as it then comes back through your continuous professional learning.
And that language also helps you articulate your experience based on the planning profession. Those are the words you want to use, the competencies for the planning profession. That's the language you should be grasping at, and those are the things you need to get at in your experience and your extra learning.
Okay, you had a question here, I believe. Yes, ma'am.
So if you begin your process within Alberta and then you move to BC, can you continue on, or do you have to start?
No, you don't start over. You would probably need to, first off, you let MaryJane know you're doing that. So your file goes, and David Crossley is the equivalent in BC. You then probably need either, not necessarily, but you would probably need a new sponsor and a new mentor.
Is that required, or?
You need to always have a sponsor and a mentor, okay?
But will a new sponsor?
You don't necessarily have to, but for me, if I was to be guiding you, for example, I've never worked in BC. So the rules are different there, the procedures are different, the processes are somewhat different. It would make sense that I could still help you, but that would be my weakness now that, gee, I got this problem of this procedural element, can't help you. Now, I can read the legislation as good as you can, but I don't have any practical experience to help guide you through it. So it's likely that it might make sense for you to line up a new sponsor and a new mentor in that situation. But that's a judgment call, okay? If you're right near the end, like you got, you know, you're almost there, you know, maybe not, but if really you're just about to start, yeah, continue on. But the time period doesn't change, it just means you have a different person.
Okay, it won't delay it.
No, it should not. It might, in the sense that your learning curve now is vertical again, right? Yeah. Okay, so, yes, ma'am.
I have a couple of questions. So I have an accredited degree, so I'd be on the 2-year program. And my question is so I need 2 years of work experience and then 1 with a mentor. Can those overlap?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can
Yeah.
do them.
Yeah.
The
It-
one you're mentored of, your 2 years
Yeah.
is the same.
Yeah, it's not 3. It's not 3 years. It's within the time frame. Yeah.
And my next question, I don't fully understand what I'm asking because I'm a tad confused by the process. So I'm going to submit all my paperwork to PSB, and then I'm going to have to become an APPI candidate. Can you explain?
It happens at the same time.
Okay.
No, it's a member.
Yeah,
On the
yeah.
form, it says, on the candidate form, or your assessment form, it says show proof of your affiliate, and we don't have that, Gary, we don't have pre-candidate, so you
Yeah.
become a subscriber, so it's like, you have.
No, she's an accredited degree, so.
I know, but you still have a.
No, when you'll make an application to be accessed for candidate membership to the PSB.
Yeah.
When they determine that, yes, you have an accredited degree, and yes, you are employed in the planning field, they'll send you a letter, they'll copy me, and I will immediately tell you, yes, you've been accepted as a candidate member of APPI. So you pay an assessment fee to the PSB, you don't pay an application fee to the PSB. Then I will invoice you for your member dues as a candidate member. So that's one area where people get confused. So just to clarify, in Alberta, in Canada, labor and education are provincial jurisdictions. So the provincial PTIA, Provincial Territorial Association Institute, in your case, APPI, is responsible for labor, managing, regulating the profession, and therefore we're responsible for certifying members. So we have come together with the rest of Canada, the other provincial associations, to come up with a national standard for membership. We've contracted to the Professional Standards Board that process. They're administering it on our behalf, but we still own the process and are responsible and accountable to the government via our legislation and in the public interest. So that is why that process, people are a little bit confused. They're administering a process to us, and then we come back and I will tell you, yes, you're good to go, and you can continue down the certification route via the PSB, but you're a member of APPI and your rights and responsibilities are, APPI, you're obligated to us.
My 2 years don't, so I work for the city in a planning job.
Yeah. Can you just talk louder, because there are people
I have a cold.
Yeah, that's so good.
It's just kind of painful. But does it matter how long I'm a member through APPI?
We encourage you to become a candidate member immediately.
Okay.
But you could, in theory, wait and work a year or two and then backlog that 1 year. And then apply for candidate membership and then immediately say, here's my 1 year, I'm working on my second year of experience, I'm mentoring my second year, I'm ready to do the course, and then at the end of 1 year, then you could do the final course. But we encourage you, but we don't force you to become a candidate member, because you can backlog that 1 year. We want you to become networked, we want you to be engaged in the profession. When you become a candidate member, you become a regulated member of the Institute. That means that we are saying to the public of Alberta that you have a certain amount of competency, and we're putting you forward as a candidate member. You're not an RPP member, but you're still a regulated member with defined rights and responsibilities. You are individually members as a candidate member. You're responsible for your member dues, not your employer, not the City of Edmonton, even though it might be nice that they pay it for you. You're responsible for CPL. You're responsible for your ethical behavior and serving the public. If a complaint is made against you, it's you, not the City of Edmonton, even though the City of Edmonton might have many, many lawyers to support you. You have professional liability insurance as a candidate member. There's a complaint against you, the City of Edmonton or the City of Leduc or the Town of Beaumont can say to you, we're cutting you loose, we're not defending you, you screwed up. Then you would use your professional liability insurance. And but I want you to be really clear. Your responsibility for your dues, you're responsible for your own professional learning. Your employer is not responsible for making sure you get your 18 learning units of professional learning every year.